Oi, oi, Spurs fans! Look at that, a double up episode. Um, while I was uploading the last episode, I jumped on YouTube and had a look and saw that Ange's presser was up and some big news in it. So I thought better jump back on and second episode for the night. It's getting pretty late here, but I thought get it done before I jump into bed because it's too big news not to jump on top of. Um, So it's the presser started off with a bit of humour. Actually, there was a reporter that came in late. I didn't catch exactly what was going on, but it sounded like he came through the door after the presser had started, and there was a bit of a question directed towards Ange about what would happen if there was a. Oh, Ange made a joke about should we let him in, and then there was a question that was directed to him asking what would happen if one of the players came into one of the team meetings late. And Ange, with a bit of classic Ange humour, said, nah, the players wouldn't do that, mate. They know better than that. Which I thought was hilarious and a good way to passively tell the reporter, hey, mate, lift your game. This is your job. You can't be rocking up late. I know I get my ass kicked if I rock up to any of my concrete pours a bit late. No one's too impressed with that, despite the fact that plenty of concreters seem to do it all the time. But I digress. Um, One of the reporters, as seems to get asked a lot towards Ange regarding Europa League, we're talking about the bookies and why we're regarded as one of the favourites, and does Ange think that's justified and whatnot. And he sort of dismissed it because I'm not really sure why that's relevant to Ange. I don't think that's anything to do with him. And the bookies can make up their own odds, and they're all just trying to cover their own losses. As I've seen commented on around in a few places, the local teams, for whatever bookie it happens to be, tend to be more favoured in the odds because they're going to take in more money on their local teams. It's very rare that you want to be betting on opposition teams. I know I don't put any bets whatsoever on those folks down in Woolwich. Never bet on them in my life, never will. So, um, just as an example. Interestingly, Ange said that he does want to still focus on improvement in the league while focusing on the Europa League at the same time, which, while it's obvious, I think it's a good thing. Obviously, you can't put all your eggs in one basket, and although all our eggs are in the Europa League as far as major success this season, we do still need that improvement in the league. Like you can't rest on 12th or 11th or 10th. We need to be trying to climb higher than that. So that's good to hear. He did comment on all the players got through from last week okay, which is amazing. I don't think we've had any game, maybe there has been one here or there, but it seems few and far between that we've had any games that all the players have got through relatively unscathed. He said the 3 players that got knocks got through the week all good and had a bit of a rest and are feeling fit and raring to go, which obviously is in reference to Danso, Son and Bentancur, as I talked about in my last video. So that's great news. Said the next 2 games are a good chance to give match minutes to all the players that are coming back, which is Johnson, Odeberg, Matters. He said he really wants to get some minutes into a doggy. And now, time for the big news, the amazing news, the news we've all been waiting for, the news that I commented on in the last video. Van der Ven and Romero looking like they'll be back and ready for the AZ first leg. Whether that's back and ready to start or whether that's back and ready to get some minutes into them or whatever. But to get a comment on that and some confirmation that they're not far away, what's that? It's about a week and a half away. That's going to bring excitement to all Spurs fans. He also commented and said Solanke and Richie aren't too far behind. So that's also great news, especially in terms of Solanke. But even Richie, while Richie has his flaws and does my head in sometimes, I love the way he gets stuck in. I love that he has a crack and extra bodies. I mean, the more players that we can rotate, the more players we can share the load on, the better the whole team's going to look. It just allows everyone to get a little bit more rest, and whether it's coming on for the last 30 minutes or whether it's rotating who's starting what game, it's all just really good for the squad as a whole. I do think, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to comment on this. I think we got the international break a few weeks away. 2 games after the AZ game, I think, before the international break. So quite interesting that Romero's back and fit to get a couple of games of action before the international break, where he'll probably be fit and ready to go for some full 90 minutes. Geez, there might be some fans screaming him out of the club if he goes away, plays full games for Argentina, and comes back and is injured again straight away. That could be the end of him. But I'll focus on the positive and not go down that path too much, because that does my head in too. We need him out there for us, and good. Be passionate about your country. I'm a passionate Australian. I love my country. If I ever was good enough or had the opportunity to represent the Socceroos, I would have jumped at it as hard as I could. But I we need Romero playing for us. When he's on his game, he adds a lot to the team. Despite the fact I don't think he had the greatest start to the season, I think he was at fault for some of the goals that we conceded early in the season, and he didn't necessarily look like he was 100% switched on at times. He is still a world-class centre-back, and we need him out there, and we need Van der Ven out there. If we're going to be competing and if we're going to be driving to look to play in a final of the Europa League, get through all these next stages of the competition and make it to that final and bloody win that final. Come on, we can do it. We need those two guys out there, and it'll make a difference to our league form as well, whether they're playing every game. It'll make a difference to, not that Danso should be run off his feet, but all players need breaks and rests. And so even for Danso, for Gray, for Davies, all those players will benefit from those two coming back. And I imagine the vibe of the club will pick up. I can feel my vibe has picked up just from hearing Ange say that news. He had a bit of a chat about the break and time off, that the players got given a couple of days off at the start of last week and a couple of days off at the start of this week. He talked about that the players' home and family life, and the ability to escape from football gets really affected with the situation that we were going through and these back to back to back to back to back games that we've had. So I think that's good. Hopefully, he said the players seem like they're refreshed and feeling good, and he talked about that the training has improved. He said the players are firing, and that the quality and the level of training has really picked up. So hopefully that's positive signs. Like, if you're training well, you're playing well. If you're training poorly, you're not going to be able to play well. It's train how you play how you train. It's a adage that's been around for a long time. He didn't have too much to say on the Ipswich game. He said need to keep backing up results. He said a couple of things, nothing too new. He said it's tough away from home all the time, but after getting the last 2 wins in the league, it's an opportunity to keep building momentum, which I completely agree with. He went into talk about some specifics on a few different players. He got asked about Tal. He said that he absolutely loves his work rate. Said that by giving him 90 minutes multiple times, he said part of the reason for that is to really get some physicality into him and get some minutes into his legs and get him used to the physicality of the Premier League and what's expected of him, which I think he'll benefit from in the long run. And I've said before, but I think I really like the way Tal goes about it. I think he's got great work rate. I think he tries a lot of different things. I think he makes different runs to some of the players that we've got, puts himself in good positions. So I think being so young, I think he will come good. And I think he looks like he's really happy to be playing at Spurs. When the rumour mill was going on during the transfer window, it seemed like there was almost this conversation or this narrative that he didn't want to come to Tottenham and he only wanted to go to United. And I think if anyone saw his Instagram story that said, I think in quotation marks, "You picked the wrong club," and then he put after it a laughing face and a clown emoji, which I thought was great. Quality banter by the kid, and good on you. Stick it to those bastards down at United, and be proud of playing for Spurs because he should be. I mean, we're a great club with a great history, and we have the ability to be greater. And if everyone can get on board that kind of vibe and want to drive the club standards higher, that's a great thing for everyone. Um, he said, obviously, when Dom and Richie are both back, that gives us some extra options in the forward line as well. Obviously, to rotate through, and then you're not purely relying on Solanke. You're not purely relying on Tal. You've got Richie as an option to bring in for some games. It just it'll keep the whole squad fresher and keeps everyone driving a higher standard too. When you've got competition for spots, it's a good thing. Regardless of whether all the competition's on the same level, they can all provide different things to the team. Uh, he talked about Porro and Kulu. He said that, or he got asked, I think it was actually Ali Gold that asked him, and said, is this an opportunity to give those two some break as they've played the most minutes out of all the players in our squad? He said, yeah, absolutely. The next two games are an opportunity to rotate and give some players some rest. He said he's given Archie a rest as well, and he's benefiting from that. So I do wonder, maybe Archie might be back in for this game. Maybe Porro and Kulu might get that rest. Maybe we won't get that lineup that I sort of predicted that he would go with without any of the information from the press conference, obviously, in the last video. He also said that Brennan and Destiny Udogie, Brennan Johnson, obviously, they're both in with an opportunity to start across the next two games. So I think that's really good. I think maybe we will see the lineup mixed up a little bit, and maybe a couple of those other players that we haven't seen starting will be into the starting lineup, and a couple of these players that are run off their feet will get that opportunity for a rest. Um, yeah, I think that's really, really positive news. I just, yeah, I don't know. I'm buzzing after that. I think, and I think all Spurs fans will be. It's just the Van de Ven and Romero news. Everyone's been hanging on to hearing for so long, and seeing Van de Ven come back for that 45 that he played against Elfsborg, and then not seeing him again since then has been painful, and it's just sparked the rumor mill and the amount of people saying, he's out for the season, he's got to get surgery, blah, 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 blah. All obviously speculation. No one apart from people inside the club really knows what's going on. And if everything that was said in this press conference is true and accurate, and, well, I mean, we'll believe it once we see the players out on the pitch, but maybe the club has actually taken a smarter approach, and Ange has actually taken a smarter approach in getting these players fit and right. And as he said previously, getting the squad in a position to really attack the Europa League. So let's hope we can do that. Come on, you Spurs!